Welcome back to the third annual NFL Retweet Weekly Pick'em series. This is the week 1 edition, and phew, this is almost surreal, guys. With how ridiculous the year 2020 has been, the fact that we didn't have to sacrifice NFL football to get here, probably the most unbelievable part of it all. Sit down and put your feet up because staying at home is about to get so much easier. If this is your first time, I am so glad to have you. Make sure you subscribe and join the Pick'em group to follow along all year and eventually tell me how I know nothing about football and that I shouldn't quit my day job. I've had a lot of fun the last 2 years. Last year I gave away a $100 NFL shop gift card for the full season winner, and I will continue that trend this year. If we can reach 2,000 members to the Pick'em group, I'll make it 150. I'll leave a link in the comments and in the description so that you can join the group. I'll also be giving away Madden 21 codes for the first few weeks of the season. There are 2 codes hidden in this video. I'll also be picking someone in the comments who uses one of the 2 hashtags that were trending on Twitter this offseason, and let me know something that you want them to add to franchise mode, just so I know you're legit and not some 10-year-old that's just going to play MUT all year long. I want these codes to go to someone that was willing to not buy the game this year in protest of EA just on us. And this 2020 NFL Pick'em series is brought to you by MyBookie. Shout out to them for allowing me to continue to do this series and not having to make it a closed group for members only, just so that we could pay the bills around here. Without further ado, let's get into these week 1 picks. Kicking off the 2020 season, we've got the Texans at the Chiefs. Technically, it's Thursday Night Football, but it's going to be broadcast on Sunday Night Football. And it still just feels crazy that we're about to get to watch NFL football after everything that we've been through this year, guys. Kickoff game this year features 2 of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes is officially the face of the league and probably the only man that's had a good 2020. Deshaun Watson, he lost his wide receiver 1 this offseason, but I'm pretty optimistic how this Texans offense could produce without an obvious go-to target in the passing game. The Super Bowl winners basically never lose this game, and for some reason I'm feeling like it could be a very high scoring game, even though I think defense is going to reign heavy in the early parts of the season. So I'm going to go with Chiefs win 35-32. And then moving on to our first NFL Sunday of the year, we've got Seahawks at Falcons. And I was a big cheerleader for both of these teams last year, but at opposite ends of the season. The Falcons had me on the bandwagon going into the year, while Russell Wilson and the Seahawks got the nod down the stretch. Parallels with these 2 teams makes this matchup pretty intriguing, and this should be a really good measuring stick for both of these teams early on. Going into 2020, I think that these teams both have as good a chance as any if the right guys can stay healthy, and obviously both are as healthy as they can be to start the season, most notably Todd Gurley, who could have a big day back in the state of Georgia. And those of you that have been with me during these weekly pick'ems know that I often used home field as a tiebreaker, and I think that home field is going to be as important as ever this season, especially since the NFL did not decide to go one way or the other with fans or no fans. And it looks like some teams will have fans in the stadium, while others will be likely pumping in just a little bit of fake crowd noise. But for this one, I'm going Falcons win 26-24. Jets at Bills. This is the matchup of the 2 teams that think they're already primed to take down the Patriots in the post-Tom Brady era. One of them I think would be right, while the other still needs a clean sweep from ownership to coaching, clear out all the negative karma. How else do you explain a grown man getting mononucleosis during an NFL season? Bills win 20-13. Next up, we've got Bears at Lions. Basically the bottom half of the NFC North facing off to see who thinks that they are ready to challenge either the Vikings or Packers. Bears, they have 2 quarterbacks, aka none, and the Lions get their man back after they look like a legit playoff team to start the 2019 season with a healthy Matthew Stafford. To me, the shine from that one season where the Bears were pretty good has almost worn off entirely for me, and I don't think that head coach Matt Nagy is nearly as good of a head coach as we thought, and probably better suited as an offensive coordinator. I don't think that much more highly of Matt Patricia, but like I said, the Lions looked like a different team with Matthew Stafford, and any team that loses their starting quarterback for a full season is going to struggle. I just am really hopeful that back of his can hold up for an entire season, but in this one I think the Lions win 23-17. Let me take a moment to tell you about this week's pick'em sponsor, MyBookie. I started using MyBookie last season, to capitalize on all these super accurate picks, and found it really entertaining to watch the Dolphins struggle to try and cover these insane spreads. MyBookie also has these NFL super contests where you pick 5 games against the spread, whichever ones you feel the most comfortable with, and your scores accumulate over a 4-week period. There's one with a $100 buy-in, which is a little steep, but the payouts are sweet. I went with the $10 entry because it's an awesome way to get your feet wet, and the season feels as unpredictable as ever. I do know that you can use my link and promo code NFLRT, and MyBookie will match your first deposit up to $1,000, so you can basically double your money before even making a bet. Right now is the time to get in because you can make all of these bets on things like who wins NFL MVP with preseason odds. But for week 1, let me know what games I should place a bet on this week, and maybe I'll give you credit in next week's video if you encourage me to make a right pick, or maybe I'll blame you if I lose out. Big thanks to MyBookie for sponsoring this video and giving us an extra way to inject more football into our veins. Let's get back to these picks. Alright, now for the big dogs in the NFC North. Packers at Vikings. This series has had some really fun matchups in the last few years, and hopefully nobody walks into a bar this year and ends their season. Get it? In all seriousness, week 1 always serves up a lot of injuries, especially soft tissue injuries. Hopefully Aaron Rodgers was training hard this offseason, so this career doesn't flame out, because I feel like that's the trajectory that it's on right now. I don't expect every quarterback to be on the TB12 workout regimen, but I don't want to see him get prematurely replaced by Jordan Love like that Brett Favre guy got replaced by But then on the other side, Kirk Cousins is over here putting himself in the anti-masker group, so I don't know what quarterback I trust less going into 2020. I will say I heard an interview from Mike Zimmer, and there was something about his unwavering confidence when he stated something about the fact that he's never had a bad defense. So I'm going to take the man's word for it, even though on paper it looks like that might be the weakness of this Vikings roster. All in all, I think that Aaron Rodgers has been channeling motivation since late April and just unleashes it all at once like a teenager getting ready for their first time. You know, some J. Cole-ish. Packers win 31-28. Dolphins at Patriots. This rivalry is going to be weird without Tom Brady. I always enjoyed seeing the Dolphins upset the Patriots, and the last upset was a pretty epic way for them to go out. But who knows, maybe this next generation of the rivalry will be even more exciting than the last. My weekly pick'em OGs out there know that I've always enjoyed picking against the Patriots, and that's because I hate them. Scratch that, hated them. Not really, but come on, the Belichick-Brady duo was played out. Everyone was tired of seeing this combo get back to the Super Bowl. Now, I don't want to get political here, but the New England Patriots of all teams going from Boy Scout Tom Brady to Cam Newton as their starting quarterback is kind of a symbolic parallel to the true Patriots of this country reaching this new level of wokeness brought to us by the year 2020. Cam Newton is one of the most unique athletes to ever grace a football field, yet still gets a ton of unwarranted hate because the guy didn't dive into a mosh pit in a Super Bowl that was pretty much already lost, and I don't know, I guess he's got too much charisma and it makes Karens uncomfortable. I personally will be rooting for him to redeem himself, and I think it starts in week 1. The Patriots are going to be running an offense that is a blend of old school and new school, with the extra emphasis on running fully intended there. The Patriots skill positions don't concern me because Cam's MVP season was with a group of a similar caliber, if not even worse. And even with the Patriots opt-outs, and don't get me started on those potentially being encouraged by Belichick for contract manipulation, the Patriots defense will still be one of the best in the league. So pair that with the dynamic triple option running game that they could potentially roll out against teams. This recipe could translate quickly in this strange start to the season because it's going to be all about execution of the basics. And if there's anybody that's going to coach through these circumstances, it's going to be Belichick. Patriots win 21-14. Next up, we've got the Eagles against the Washington football team. You know how everyone kept referring to the Chargers as San Diego Chargers for a year or two after their move to LA? Well, I feel like no one will be making that same mistake. The football team, formerly known as the Redskins, because it's just that ridiculous of a name, even if it is just temporary. And for the record, I am a big fan of Red Wolves as a potential team name in the future, but this current name situation is just a byproduct of the dysfunction that is synonymous with Dan Snyder, and sadly, the football team isn't likely to justify Snyder's ownership with their performances this year. Speaking of ownership karma, look at what happened to poor Ron Rivera as soon as he stepped in the building. Jokes aside, I pray that this guy is able to beat cancer because he's one of the best dudes in the NFL and one of my favorite coaches. The Redskins are probably not as bad as everyone thinks because of the fact that their front office is a dumpster fire, and if, God willing, Ron Rivera is able to keep coaching through his cancer treatment, this football team could respond with equal toughness on the field and surprise some people early on. Jack Del Rio should have the defense ready to carry the team and will need to be ready to serve as an interim head coach should Rivera need to step away at any point. Eagles are already getting bitten by the injury bug that plagued them at the end of 2019, and that's not something that's going to be easy to overcome this year. In a year where there's a literal invisible enemy out there that could put a chunk of the team on their ass for weeks, if not months, at any given time. But regardless, the Eagles still have the better team early on, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt despite their recent slow starts. Eagles win 20-10. Moving to a matchup featuring the former teams of the Washington coaches, we got the Raiders at the Panthers. The Raiders have to wait a week to play in their new Vegas home for this random week 1 matchup against the Panthers. The Raiders are a pretty interesting squad going into the year because they haven't really drastically improved, but I feel like we're all waiting for John Gruden to pull a rabbit out of his hat and name it the starting quarterback. Until then, Derek Carr will get another shot at this thing. I'm a fan of the skill set and leadership that Derek Carr brings to the table, but there's just something not clicking upstairs for him while going through progression. His passing options are pretty young and inexperienced, experience, while the defense was a bottom 10 unit last year. I'll put it this way: if Derek Carr starts all 16 games this year, the Raiders will make the playoffs, but I'm betting it's closer to 12, and we'll see Marcus Mariota at some point, despite reports that he has struggled mightily in training camp. The Panthers are also starting a new era of football. Luke Kuechly retired, which feels like a decade ago now, by the way. Cam Newton's no longer the franchise quarterback, and it's Teddy Bridgewater's turn to try and be a starting quarterback once again. The Panthers and Jaguars both came into existence as NFL franchises together, and now they're being lumped together as favorites to land to the top spots in the 2021 NFL draft. Well, despite using all of their draft picks on the defensive side of the ball last year, it's just not the year to be relying on rookie impact, though the Panthers defense might still be pretty bad. But hey, at least their front office is not pulling a 2019 Dolphins tank job like Jaguars are and shipping out all their pieces. And last time I checked, they still have Christian McCaffrey, so I think that they can pull this one off with smoke and mirrors. Panthers win 28-27. Colts at Jaguars, aka Phillip Rivers versus Gardner Minshew, aka the Uncle Rico throwing motion versus the Uncle Rico doppelganger. I'm here for the memes in this one. I've already mentioned how the Jaguars are copying the tank playbook from the Dolphins last year, so I don't really want to talk about them too much, and I want to take this time to quickly focus on the Colts. I am really intrigued to see if Phillip Rivers can find the fountain of youth behind this offensive line and with these weapons that he's got outside, or if he continues to look washed when games are on the line like he did last year. I hope that he's got one more run left in him, because the NFL is just better when Phillip Rivers can trash talk in meaningful games. Rookie running back Jonathan Taylor is going to be the engine that sparks this Colts offense, and possibly as early as week 1 against the Jags defense. Colts win 27-17. Browns at Ravens. The Browns had their humbling in 2019 after winning the offseason Super Bowl, yet they were still one of the only teams to slow down the Ravens and their MVP Lamar Jackson last year. It's easy to assume that the Ravens are just going to pick up where they left off in the 2019 regular season, but I think we're going to see a much more effective game plan executed by the Browns this year, and this could be a major week 1 upset. I'm not picking it, just throwing it out there for you to pick it up if you're feeling bold. Ravens win 24-19. Chargers at Bengals. There seems to be a lot of new era type of matchups to kick off this season. Not sure if that's on purpose or not, but the NFL it usually is. Joe Burrow has a chance to put the league on notice with an early win against the Chargers. He's got all the offensive weapons that a rookie quarterback could ask for, and his mobility should hide the offensive line deficiencies. It's the defense that is the true wild card for the Bengals if they're going to see instant improvement when closing out these games. The Chargers are an interesting squad that I think could win 3 games or as many as 10. I would have gone with 12 as their ceiling until the Derwin James injury reminded me that this is just one of the most unlucky franchises in all of sports. It's the energy and hype that we saw Joe Burrow inject into that LSU championship squad for me. Bengals win 26-23. Bucks at Saints. Man, this one is going to be good. Phillip Rivers is over there in the AFC still, taking his last ride in a division where he's probably on the 3rd best team. Meanwhile, Brady and Breeze are going to face off twice with Super Bowl contending rosters in the first year where 7 teams from each conference will make the playoffs. So we could potentially get a 3rd matchup with these 2 old guys going at it. Now, as far as week 1 goes, Louisiana did approve fans to attend games to some capacity, so the Saints will maintain a little bit of that Superdome home field advantage, but for some reason I am rooting for Brady and Belichick as individuals despite spending like the last decade rooting against them together. I think Brady and the Bucks will start this season hot as, and Mike Evans will regain his alpha status from Godwin, who is being drafted ahead of Evans in fantasy for some reason. If, more like when the Bucks falter, it will be later in the season when Brady's 42-year-old body wears down. Be sure to check out my video about the curse of the Super Bowl host for any further proof that the Bucks are going to be a regular season show only. But in front of a small Superdome crowd, I think that the Bucks win 35-31. Cardinals at 49ers. The parallels between the 2019 Browns and the 2020 Cardinals are pretty insane, although people are hyping the Cardinals up with a little more caution than the Browns after they also traded for a top wide receiver for their Heisman-winning 2nd-year quarterback. But not only that, the Cardinals were also a really tough matchup for the division winners in similar fashion to the way that the Browns rivaled the Ravens last year. 2019 was actually the first time the 49ers had beaten the Cardinals since 2014. Now, I really like the Cardinals' youth, but I think that they're still a season away from making a run at this thing. I still don't trust the secondary nor the offensive line, but if they did see a huge improvement from Kyler Murray and start putting up 35 points on the reg, it really wouldn't shock me. The Cardinals, though, they take the cake for the worst training camp luck for the hits to their wide receiver depth alone. They've got 3 wide receivers on IR now, with a couple others dealing with injuries that cost them almost all of the preseason workouts. But I think we saw the formula that makes this team tick last year, and it doesn't require a ton of production from the wide receivers. It's the running game and the defense that should still be fine, and even through all of this injury misfortune, Jerick McKinnon made it through unscathed, so we'll finally get to see see him suit up for the 49ers 2 years later. I think the 49ers keep it going in 2020 because of that formula translating so well to the circumstances, much like what I said with the Patriots. And Kyle Shanahan is one of the best coaches in the NFL, other than, when he's got his Super Bowl lead. 49ers win 30-27. Cowboys at Rams. So the Cowboys and Giants aren't playing in a week 1 matchup for the first time in NFL history. Okay, not really, but it does seem like that, right? Jerry Jones wanted to kick off the inaugural game in the Rams' fancy new stadium. He probably would have preferred a training camp in Oxnard, California, just to really spark the old Cali Cowboys fans to come out in droves, but alas, this is one of the stadiums that won't have fans in attendance for the near future. Now, the Chargers, they're already used to that, but for the Rams, it will be a minor adjustment for them. This Rams roster is still a solid core, but the way that they've managed the talent versus the salary cap has been a little bit questionable for me, and now Jared Goff has to be something he has yet to prove that he's capable of for this team to get back to the Super Bowl. This Cowboys team, however, is stacked with talent, but it's the change at head coach that should have Cowboys fans excited. I don't buy the theory that this abbreviated offseason is a disadvantage across the board for all teams with new head coaches, and I think that's particularly the case with this Cowboys roster, which is relatively a veteran group with a lot of cohesion from the previous regime. A new coaching staff here just offers a fresh perspective, something the Cowboys were lacking dearly in the final years of Jason Garrett. Mike McCarthy is a veteran head coach who took a year off to prepare for his next role and brought a ton of experienced ex-head coaches to work with him. This is possibly the best chance the Cowboys are going to have at a Super Bowl run that they've had in the last 5 years. They've been holding their game plan close to the vest during training camp, even going as far as taking the numbers off of their players so that it would be harder for opposing scouts to figure out a game plan and what they're actually seeing on the field. I think that this matchup with the Rams is going to be a vast contrast to the playoff game that they had a few years ago, where the Rams knew every pre-snap tell of the Cowboys defense and just ran it right down their throat. It was pretty embarrassing. In this one, I think the Cowboys are going to win 35-28. Moving on to Monday Night Football. I am a huge fan of the traditional Monday Night Football doubleheader. I've always wished that they would make it a weekly thing, but I will say now that I'm getting older and my kids are draining my life away, I understand why they don't keep it up. It's easy to stay up that late with the first week hype, but that'd get draining after a while. Maybe for the first couple weeks or even the first month of the season, but I would definitely like to see it more than just one time. And first up, we've got kind of a strange matchup for the opening Monday Night Football game with the Steelers going to the Giants. And I think that this is kind of a testament to how much Monday Night Football has kind of fallen off and taken a backseat to Sunday Night Football being the true showcase game of the week. I am drinking the black and gold Kool-Aid this season, and I think the best coach team wins this one easily. The Giants coaching staff gets actually a lot of crap for adding Jason Garrett and Joe Judge, but I'm actually not on that hate train. I think that these guys are underestimated and could be a solid pairing down the line. They both want to run a really tight business-like ship, and that blue-collar mentality could be perfect for the Giants. However, this Steelers squad is going to be thinking Super Bowl, and Ben Roethlisberger is going to pick this Giants defense apart. Steelers win 31-17. And then a little late night Monday Night Football action between the Titans and Broncos. The Titans were one of the more shocking surprises of the 2019 season, most notably the improvement from Ryan Tannehill once he got away from Adam Gase. Derrick Henry finally got his money this offseason, but there's absolutely no way that he can maintain that historic run that he had at the end of 2019. If he's able to match those season total numbers, it's more likely that they will be evenly spread out across 16 games, which will actually be a good thing. But I'm a founding member of the Derrick Henry fan club, and even I can admit that we've never seen that kind of consistency from him on a week-to-week basis for a full 16 games. It's either feast or famine. The Broncos hype train was more of a roller coaster ride this offseason. I've been on the Drew Lock jock since Mizzou, and maybe that's why I can't see why these doubters are coming out of the woodwork all of a sudden. I was one of the ones questioning John Elway's status as the GM of the Broncos just a couple years ago, but he's turned around and built a squad here and surrounded Drew Lock with the weapons needed to build his own version of the Chiefs offense. This is a good matchup of the surprise team of 2019 and a potential surprise team of 2020, and also one of the hardest games to pick of the first week of the season. But home field in Denver doesn't need fans in the stands to gain an advantage. The altitude is tough for teams for the first few weeks in a normal season, but it will knock everyone on their ass with the limited conditioning that they've had this year. Broncos win 23-17. That's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for joining me on the third year of doing this. This series is pretty much what got this channel off the ground, and they say the third year is where players make their biggest leap in development, and I'm expecting this to be my best season despite all the other distractions going on in the world. This offseason has been kind of wild for me, pretty stressful with the kids being at home. I barely had any time to do the things I wanted to do on this channel, and yet I owe you guys some videos still, and we're running out of time, so I am going to make up for them with a live stream. I'm going to cover all of my my topics, do a little Q&A. I will probably do that either the Wednesday before the NFL kickoff, so that's September 9th, or maybe I'll just do it during the hour or so leading up to the NFL kickoff. I haven't decided yet. Got a preference, let me know below. But once again, make sure that you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and join the weekly pick'em group so you have the chance to win a $100 NFL Shop gift card at the end of the season. Also, stay tuned. I will be continuing to give out Madden codes for the first few weeks of the season. You guys are the best, and I will see you all in the next video.